Hello and welcome to YNWA Transfer News, your ultimate source for all Liverpool FC transfer news. Our first news is this. Arne Slot makes obvious Ibrahima Konate point that Liverpool is not used to. Liverpool head coach Arne Slot has responded to the poor form shown by Ibrahima Konate in the early weeks of the season, pointing out that the Frenchman was not the only below-par performer midweek in the Champions League. Konate has made a few uncharacteristic errors in recent weeks. It was his poor pass that led to the chance for Victor Osimhen against Galatasaray. When Alisson Becker picked up an injury, the defender has not been in the best of form and had a torrid first half against Crystal Palace before he recovered after the interval. But Slot was quick to point out that improvements must be made as a team, not just individually. If you lose a game of football like we did against Galatasaray and we did against Palace, then it doesn't help if you lose the ball a few times very easily, Slot said. He has been one of them, but definitely not the only one. Against Galatasaray, apart from the penalty, they got maybe 3 or 4 moments from us losing a very simple ball without any pressure. It happened to him once in both games. If you lose a game, then there's so much focus on that moment, and then 90 minutes is very poor. But I don't analyze the game like that, especially afterward, when I have time to see what we did well. But in the last 2 games, it has been obvious and clear that we have made a few errors, not only him but also others, that we are not used to. If you do things people aren't used to and you lose, normally the manager gets criticized. Slot also confirmed that goalkeeper Alisson Becker is set for a spell on the sidelines. He limped off against Galatasaray midweek and has been left out of the Brazil squad for its upcoming friendlies against South Korea and Japan. In better news, Hugo Ekitike and Federico Chiesa could be available in the Premier League this weekend when the Reds take on Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. The attacker pair will train with their teammates today and then be assessed. I would be surprised if Alisson was there for the first game after the international break, Slot said. Ekitike, like Alisson, went off in the second half of the Champions League game in Turkey. Chiesa, who scored at Selhurst Park last weekend, was absent from the trip entirely with a minor knock picked up earlier in the week. Arne Slot confirms major Liverpool injury blow amid Hugo. Ekitike fitness update. Arne Slot has confirmed Liverpool have been dealt a major injury blow, with Alisson Becker expected to be sidelined for several weeks with a hamstring problem. But both Hugo Ekitike and Federico Chiesa are in contention for Saturday's Premier League visit too. Chelsea Alisson suffered his injury when sprinting back to make a save from Galatasaray striker Victor Osimhen during the opening stages of the second half in the 1-0 Champions League defeat in Istanbul on Tuesday evening. The 32-year-old underwent scans on Thursday to ascertain the extent of the damage, having the previous day not been named in Brazil's squad for their forthcoming friendlies against South Korea and Japan in the Far East, and Slot has revealed Liverpool do not expect the shot stopper to be back available soon. The Reds boss said, Alisson is not a part of the squad tomorrow, and he's not going to travel to Brazil as well for the national team. So he will be out for Saturday. That depends also on how fast a recovery goes. So Saturday it's clear he's not going to play for Brazil, and I would be surprised if he would be there in the first game after the international break, home to Manchester United on October 19th. But from there on, sometimes things can go a bit faster or a bit slower. It's always difficult to say the amount of days and weeks. But for the upcoming games, he will not be part of us or the Brazil team. There was, though, better news about Ekitike and Chiesa, who have both suffered injury problems during the past week. Ekitike was forced off during the second half in Turkey after undergoing lengthy treatment on the pitch, while Chiesa missed the trip entirely due to a minor knock. But Slot said, Hugo is going to train today again, and let's see where he is, and the same can be said for Federico. We have to wait and see after the session where exactly they are. The visit to Chelsea, 5:30 p.m. kickoff, is Liverpool's last match before the second international break of the season. The Liverpool matches. Alisson Becker could miss as Arne Slot dealt major injury blow. Alisson Becker is set to miss some big games for Liverpool over the next month or so. The 33-year-old goalkeeper suffered a hamstring injury during the Reds' 1-0 defeat to Galatasaray in the UEFA Champions League on Tuesday night, and he was forced off just after half-time. Alisson had a scan on Thursday and is expected to be sidelined for up to 6 weeks, missing a handful of key fixtures. Speaking to reporters at Rams Park in Istanbul earlier in the week, Arne Slot ruled Alisson out of Saturday afternoon's clash against Chelsea. The Liverpool boss claimed that he feared the worst when the Brazilian pulled up. "If one of our players is on the floor, 9 times out of 10 I fear the worst. And with the worst I mean he cannot continue. And that is what happened with Alisson," said Slot. "He will not be able to play Saturday, that is 99.9% certain, although I think it is 100%. On Wednesday, Alisson was left out of the Brazil squad for their upcoming friendlies against South Korea and Japan. On Friday, Slot told reporters at his pre-match press conference, "Alisson is not part of the squad tomorrow and won't travel to Brazil as well with the national team. He will be out for Saturday." Hugo Ekitike is going to train again today, and same can be said for Federico Chiesa. "Alisson, I would be surprised if he's there for first game after international break, but we don't know after that. Depends how quickly he can recover." So, with that being said, YNWA has looked at which Liverpool games the shot-stopper could miss. Arne Slot reveals what he's privately told Alexander Isak about his early form for Liverpool. Alexander Isak's transfer saga dominated the summer. Transfer window headlines. The Sweden international was Arne Slot's top target since the window first opened, with the Dutchman finally getting his man on deadline day. Since his Anfield arrival, Isak has been building up his match fitness, with the attacker often being rotated with Hugo Ekitike. Although his talent is evident, the fact that he's only scored 1 goal for Liverpool so far is seen as a cause for concern by some fans. With Slot revealing what he's said to the number 9 about his recent performances, Arne Slot says that Alexander Isak needs to get used to his teammates before he's back to his best after the international break. Liverpool fans are likely hoping that Isak will be available to play a full 90 minutes. Of course, some changes will have to be made with Liverpool's starting out key to accommodate the number 9, but the fact that Ekitike can be used on the left means it shouldn't be too hard to do. At the moment, it feels like Liverpool have paid far too much money for Isak and Florian Wirtz, with the duo costing over $240 million if all clauses are met. However, while speaking during his pre-Chelsea press conference, Slot shared what he thinks Isak must do to be able to get back to his best this season. "I said to him when he started that the difficult thing will be that you will have your appearances, like you just said, but if you add the minutes together, you probably only have 2 or 3 90-minute games," Slot said. "But yeah, that is what we inherited from the situation of him not being with the team in Newcastle, and we knew this before, so it's not an excuse. He already scored a goal, he gets fitter and fitter, but the main thing that he needs to adjust to is his teammates, and his teammates need to adjust to him, and the more you play together, the better things will work." The upcoming international break could help Alexander Isak find some confidence in his game. As mentioned, Saturday's Premier League game against Chelsea is the last time that Liverpool fans will see their team play for a week or so. The October international break is now here, which means that the vast majority of the Reds' first-team squad will be representing their countries. Although these games can lead to injuries, for Isak, it could be exactly what he needs to get firing again. The striker is one of Sweden's most important players, with him and Viktor Gyökeres forming a more than solid partnership. In the last international break, Isak wasn't fully available, which means that his country lost 2-0 to Kosovo in the World Cup qualifiers. This time around, however, he's likely to have much more game time, and if he bags himself a goal or two, he could get himself back on track and start becoming an integral part of Slot's plans. Or, at least, that is what Liverpool's fans will be hoping for. Arne Slot outlines Mohamed Salah theory with honest admission over Liverpool struggle. Mohamed Salah has 6 goal contributions in the opening 9 games of the season for Liverpool, but the Egyptian has not been in the best of form over the last few months. The former AS Roma winger has only netted 5 goals in his last 20 competitive Liverpool appearances, though that period does include the last few matches of last season, when the Premier League title was already wrapped up. And Arne Slot has offered his theory on why Salah's goal-scoring exploits might have slowed down for Liverpool, explaining that teams are setting up differently against the Reds, making things difficult for his attackers. I see the same as the second half of last season, where he scored 12 goals, 5 from a penalty and 1 from a set piece. So 6 open play goals, Slot said. He is part of a team that faces different opposition than the first half of last season. To make that more of an insight, if you compare how we won the away game against United, where they tried to play out from the back, and we took the ball off them 3 times, and at Anfield when Onana only went long, that's one of the answers why it is more difficult for us to score from open play. Mo is a part of this, and you can see this in the second half of last season and the first part of this season. But now you are focused on Mo. The next time you are focused on Florian Wirtz. Then you are focused on Cody Gakpo. What I'm trying to say is that we don't score as many open play goals as we did first part of last season. And this is something we work on very hard. The more we play, under the new setup, the better it will go. But we still struggle a bit to find enough goals from open play in the second half of last season and the first part of this season. Slot also confirmed that Alisson Becker, his #1 goalkeeper, is set for a spell on the sidelines after he was forced off against Galatasaray midweek. However, in more positive news, Hugo Ekitike and Federico Chiesa could be available in the Premier League this weekend when the Reds take on Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, looking to bounce back from 2 successive defeats. The attacker pair will train with their teammates today and then be assessed. I would be surprised if Alisson was there for the first game after the international break, Slot said. Ekitike, like Alisson, went off in the second half of the Champions League game in Turkey. Chiesa, who scored at Crystal Palace a week ago, had a minor knock and didn't face Galatasaray, but that setback isn't expected to keep him out for too long. Steven Gerrard tipped to join 2 championship clubs as Liverpool legend could make return. Steven Gerrard has been linked with 2 clubs in the championship, Wrexham and Birmingham City, and one of his former Liverpool teammates believes that he could still get back on a road that eventually leads back to Anfield. Gerrard's senior managerial career started in 2018 when he took over at Rangers. He had previously worked with Liverpool's U18s and later joined Aston Villa in 2021. 2 years later, he moved to Al Ettifaq in Saudi Arabia. However, the 45-year-old has been out of work since leaving the Saudi Pro League in January of this year by mutual consent. Wrexham plays Birmingham later today, with both ambitious teams in mid-table in the second tier. Phil Parkinson and Chris Davies are the men in charge of the 2 sides respectively at the moment. It's important that if you sign for a club, you need to know where you want to go and what the club's ambitions are. Gerrard's former Liverpool teammate Vladimir Smicer told Boyle Sports, "It's not good to sign for a club that is financially struggling and has no future. Of course, Steven Gerrard has been a fantastic player, one of the best players I played with, but as a manager, as I said, he's still very young. His name is big in England, Europe, and world football. Stevie is fantastic. I know his mentality, he's a winner. He definitely wants to go to a club where he feels he has a chance to win games, be a strong team, and build something. So if they show him plans for the future and he feels it's achievable, it's interesting for him. But it must have a future, it must have ambition. People sometimes ask me if he can one day be the manager of Liverpool. And I'm saying yes, I think one day Stevie G can be a manager of Liverpool. He would be a very good manager of Liverpool, in my opinion. But we'll see in the future. He needs to have some success with a team. Could it be Birmingham or Wrexham, maybe? But if he has success, why not Liverpool one day? Thank you for watching. Like and comment. Subscribe.